Sure. Anyway, you know, Ken has published 10,000 caches in our state, and he caches.
You guys hit it.
And he averages about 8 caches a day that he has done. He's been doing it for 6 years.
8 years.
8 years.
7 years.
And you know, we've got over. Well, we got 9,000 active right now.
I think so.
9,000 active with, you know, I think it's 9,200 that is active. So we certainly appreciate everything that you do for the hobby and that we all enjoy. And a couple questions.
I just want to thank everybody for coming, first of all. I mean, this is kind of overwhelming for many of you. So now there's another reviewer here, in case you haven't met him, that Dick Hartland Casher over there in the cap. Reviewer for Nebraska and Wyoming. To answer your question, I live in Wisconsin. I live in the Milwaukee area. I'm an Iowan originally. I spent my first 35, 36 years of my life in Iowa, and then moved to follow a job in Wisconsin.
What part of Iowa?
I went to grade school in a little town called Ashton up in northwest Iowa. It's up by Sheldon. And I went to Sheldon junior high.
Now, there's been some changes with ground speed with power trails.
Yep.
So what's the official? I guess.
Yeah, the official line is power trails are now allowed, as long as they meet the other guidelines. They have to be 520 feet apart from each other. If permission is required, you still have to have permission. If it's DNR property or whatever. Thank you very much. I will say, I think I have one of the easiest reviewer territories, because I think Iowans are just nicer people than you find in a lot of places, and I think the tone and the civility of the geocaching, I know it. I really, it's overall, you know, with a few exceptions, it's really a good group of people to review for. I think the post that I had in one of my blogs or somewhere is the growth factor was among the highest states in the country at that time, or even areas in the world. It wasn't the density per capita or the density per square mile, but it was the growth that we had experienced. Yeah. The closest to normal, I would say, is I usually check in the morning when I get to work. Just like it's wake up time for me. You know, I'll check the queue. And that's usually between 7 and 8 o'clock. Sometimes I'll check during the noon hour, not real often. And then when I get home from work, which could be anywhere from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock, I'll take a look. So it doesn't narrow down very much. And then sometimes if I'm bored at work, I'll do it at 3 in the afternoon. You know?
Yeah, I got started.
Yeah, I bought a GPS in the year 2000, and then early in the year 2001, I was on the internet and I saw a posting on a Yahoo forum by Jeremy Irish, and he said, check out our new GPS-based adventure game, and he had a link to it. And I went, and it was just a real rudimentary form of the website you see now. He was running it out of his basement, basically. And so I just started, and I said, oh, I wonder if there's any around here. And there were no geocaches, and I was living in Wisconsin by that time. It was 2001. There were no geocaches in Wisconsin. There was one in Illinois, and I said, well, next week I'm down there on business, so I'll find that one. And that got me hooked. I found that one in Illinois. It's called Beverly, if you've ever. It's one of the oldest geocaches out there now. So the next week I hid what is now the oldest geocache in Wisconsin. And that spring, a couple other guys found it, and we started corresponding via the postings, and we said, well, let's have a get-together of some kind. So we did a picnic in a state park there, and that was the first event in Wisconsin. And we said, well, we should organize and do this more often. So that was the beginning of the Wisconsin, I know this is a long story, I'm sorry. That was the beginning of the Wisconsin Geocaching Association. And then about that same time, Jeremy Irish was bringing on more staff people in Seattle, one of his people was a gal named Heidi, and she was helping coordinate all the reviewers. And they were setting reviewing up to be more regionally based instead of, I didn't back up how I got to reviewer. It was through that connection with Wisconsin Geocaching Association. They knew about me and I was an organizer, and they asked a couple of us to be reviewers. So that's kind of how that happened. So I was reviewing all over the world at first. So they just had, you go into the queue and whatever's at the top of the list, that's what you look at. It wasn't regionally based. And then Heidi started setting up regionally based systems because park systems, whether they were statewide or municipal parks or county parks, were becoming aware of geocaching, and they said, we need local people, local reviewers that know and can have experience with the same park time after time, so they know what the rules are. So we had one or two other Wisconsin reviewers, and they said, well, who can do Wisconsin? So I was reviewing Wisconsin and Iowa. I said, yeah, I know Iowa pretty well. They didn't have anybody in Iowa, and there weren't many Iowa geocachers around. So more and more Wisconsin reviewers are available. So I said, well, I'll just continue to do Iowa only then. And that's how it's kept going. It's fun to review geocaches. And if I open up the list and there are 43 geocaches in there, I could spend that entire hour on one person's, and the other person's is not hit to theirs. And then they think, well, he's not even reviewing what's going on here. So I intentionally try to look at if someone submits a whole bunch of geocaches, I try to just do 5 a day to be fair to other geocaches, and in a way to be fair to myself too.
J Strout from Pella, CJ and BJ from Pella.
Team Gamsey.
Also this guy too.
No part Team Gamsey.
6 Grants, Stephen Liz.
Rufus, Altoona.
Only me from Marshalltown.
Prospect Retreat, Marshalltown.
Bloodlust with Christy, Carbondale.
3 elves. That's one of the other elves.
3 elves.
BJ Dayton, my daughter. Wiki 6.
M. Hoping. GMSN Rich.
Katie 9565.
Mark Van Meter.
Dee
I'm the bride.
Hey, the baby, don't forget.
That's right. This Bear Grylls right here.
Bear Grylls.
Bowden Wade, go to Bowden Wade.
Sir Rat.
And what about you now?
I'm known as Bloodlust's Idol, also Bluegrass Tom. Iowa Gift from Bluegrass.